Each part of the world has its own unique creative content in the film industry that is reflective of the attitude and population of each country. This clip will highlight the creative aspects of the international film industry with a focus on China, Turkey, and Venezuela. The evolution of the Chinese film market began in 1949 when China was established. China made over 1,200 films until the Cultural Revolution in 1966. During the Cultural Revolution, any kind of art form was banned, including film. In 1977, film industry started to revive, and people were eager to see movies because they had been suppressed for so long. In 1982, Shaolin Temple was the first commercial comedy. People no longer focused on the politics or documentaries. Instead, they wanted entertainment. In 1989, 75% of films were comedies. In 1992 was a major turning point, as moviegoers began to drop. However, during the 90s, the Chinese directors began to connect with the international film industry. Films awarded in the 90s were mostly all tragedies, and they displayed how the Chinese people flourished and survived in a different time period. In 2002, Hero was the first Chinese movie that the box office exceeding $100 million. Chinese martial arts became a main factor of this movie's success. In 2005, box office sales started to increase and people started returning to theaters. The Promise was a very representative commercial movie. In 2014, China's box office surged ahead by 36% to hit over $4 billion, which consolidated China's position as the world's second largest theatrical territory. Over 54% of the total box office came from local films. The biggest Chinese hits of 2014 were contemporary and youth-driven titles. The following chart shows the top 10 Chinese local films in 2014, where the majority of them are romance, comedy, and action films. In fact, these three genres comprise 70% of China's box office. In addition, the performance of Chinese animated films improved in 2014, with 7 titles grossing over $8 million. One interesting genre called reality show films was recently introduced in 2014. This is a brand new genre that only exists in China. The 2015 box office in China grew an astonishing 48.7% in 2015, reaching a record $6.78 billion. This expansion marked the highest rate of growth since 2011. Still, Chinese films improved in both quality and diversity in 2015, as local filmmakers became more adept at telling stories that resonated with lives and aspirations of the new middle class. In 2015, more films achieved both outstanding box office performances and critical acclaim. In 2015, indie art and documentary films gained much more popularity than before. It is predicted that by the end of 2016, China will earn over $10 billion in box office revenue. By the end of 2017, China is expected to surpass North America as the largest movie market in the world. In Turkey, the film industry is completely different than the US, as it nearly ended in the 90s during their economical crisis. However, lighthearted and more goofy comedies saved the nation's movie business. There are very few genres in Turkey, and they typically consist of goofy comedies or extreme dramas, and the reason being is that it reflects the nation's common psychology. Although Turkey does not create many movies, the population frequents the movie theaters often. As PwC reported in 2013, there are 567 theaters, over 2,000 salons, and over 268,000 seats in the country and counting. The whole sector is almost $2 billion strong. Typically, producers take their inspiration directly from the people of the country, as it is very common to use everyday type characters. It is also common to use people with traditional costumes and traditional accents of the country. All of the dialogue is based on the current situation that the nation is enduring. Producers who create those comedies are very profitable, as they are aware that lighthearted content relaxes people during these hard times. The majority of comedy movies do not have normal-looking characters and have normal accents. Dramas are incredibly popular in Turkey, and they come in movies and TV shows. Drama films do not involve plot lines related to love or relationships, as most popular ones revolve around the elderly or children, the softest part of the nation, and are more intense than the movies that are made in the States. One of the main sayings in Turkey about a drama movie is, You will love it because it will make you cry. Prior to the spike of popularity of dramas and comedies, the focus was on the talent and who was in the movie versus what it was about. Movies were also more centered around love stories, unlike today, where the majority of them were about a poor boy's impossible love to the rich girl. In addition, the characters were not based on their outrageous looks. During this time period, things were politically more calm, which had an effect of the creative aspect of the Turkey film business, and going to a theater was the only thing to do. The Venezuelan film is categorized by low, irregular production and permanent subsidy from the state. The most common genre of Venezuelan film, other than politics, is history. The first movies ever made in Venezuela were Famous Specialists Pulling Teeth at the Grand Hotel Europe and Boys Bathing in the Lagoon of Maracaibo, both released on January 28, 1897, in the Theater Barat of Maracaibo. In 1938 premiered the short film Taboga and the feature film El Rompimiento, the first sound movies ever made in the country. In the late 30s, Romulo Gallegos creates Aviles Studies in the city of Caracas, and in the early 40s, Guillermo Villegas Blanco formally founded the company Boulevard Films, the two most important studies in the country. Their most famous film, Isabel's Yacht Arrived This Afternoon, of Carlos Hugo Christensen, went on to win the award for Best Photography in the fourth edition of the International Cannes Film Festival in the year 1951. In 1959, the documentary film Araya of Margot Berosaf receives the Critic Prize at the Cannes Film Festival, the highest recognition obtained by a Venezuelan film so far. In the year of 1965, Mauricio Nieto Olderman premiered his film FPM, which can be listed as the first Venezuelan science fiction film ever made. The new Venezuelan cinema emerged, and the filmmakers then had the need to stand up for the country. The business was linked to the EPs that cared, looked, and put in view all the most vulnerable or marginalized sector of society. Crime, poverty, prostitution, the social crisis made the film work a chronic moral policy.